Hello, hello. So, today we are going to be pasting down the next Patreon print. So I'm going to be going through the process of how we paste down the images. Beforehand, I printed off this transfer on it's a piece of Gampi tissue laminated with repositionable spray mount onto a piece of copy paper. So you can see here we've got this thin tissue laminated onto this. And the first step, after you've printed off the image with the registration marks marked out. Hello, hello, how are we? First of all, what we have to do is we have to moisten the block to allow the glue to sink in a little bit. And so we do that, just spray a little bit on. And you don't want to make the block too wet. Too wet and the glue dilutes too much and it won't adhere properly. So we've got a small amount of water on there and just spread it around. And as you're spreading it around, you're sort of taking some of the moisture out and it's starting to dry a little bit. And we want to sort of catch it at the exact point before it dries too much. And that's when we put the glue on. And the glue that I use is just really cheap craft PVA glue. It's water soluble. It doesn't sink in too much. It doesn't affect the printing in any way. So a couple of little dabs, and if it feels like there's too much on there, you can just remove it. You can just scrape it off with your hands. But just rub it around all of the area in which your transfer is going down. Spread it out nice and evenly. And then you pat the block. And by patting the block, you're creating small little ridges in the glue, which will allow the paper to adhere easier to the glued surface. And to make it a little bit easier for yourself, I always peel up a little corner to assist with the peeling. So you just place the transfer down into the registration marks, and then from the top corner you work it down across the back, and that's when you take hold of your baron. Hi George, how are you? Take hold of your baron and get to work. Really make sure you're pressing the image down into the glue. Working all over as if you were taking an impression. And then we peel. And you keep the copy paper at a sharp angle, and there's as little risk as possible then of the transfer coming up alongside it. Then once that's done, you just sort of pat down so any areas that have risen up get pushed back down. The areas that will tend to rise up more are areas around this bottom side and this corner. So you want to really make sure, because you don't want that peeling up as you're carving. How's the shoulder, George? Now while we wait for that to dry a little bit, I will so my brother in fact did the tracing for this image, and I'm going to link his Instagram in the chat. He doesn't normally do tracings and things like that. He does a lot of crafts and homeware and stuff, so I will link his Instagram in the chat for everyone, and he would very much appreciate it if you would like to go give him a follow, because he's done a great job on this. There's the link. Got glue all over my hands now. Oh, that's good to hear, George. We need you back to full fitness. Yeah, so that's my brother in the chat, Oliver. Everyone thank him for the great job he did on the print. He is going to be the reason why this print gets out on time, because I would have still been tracing it now and we would have had real problems. So while we're just waiting for this to dry a little bit, is there anyone that has any particular questions about what I've just done? I know I ran through it rather fast, because as with anything in Japanese prints, you're always sort of on a bit of a timer with it. And you're not going to see me doing big, nice, long peels like Dave does, but so I just damp my finger a little bit and just start to rub away some of the fibres, just very lightly. Too much pressure and you can warp the paper, because there's still some moisture in it from the glue. So too heavy and you'll be pulling away too much and risk warping it, and so you just got to find the nice right balance in what you're doing. And I use a nice thin Gampi paper from Muka Hankan. It's the 3. Yes, I do print with a laser printer. When you're doing this at home, I should have mentioned that. My apologies. Thanks for that. If you're doing this at home, don't do it with an inkjet printer. An inkjet printer will bleed when you come to do this. Laserjet is much more preferable to be able to do this with. While we're waiting, I'll rub away. Usually you'd only just rub away sort of the bit that you're working on, but let's show off the whole image. Hi, John. Yeah, he's done a really good job on it. He's going to be doing a lot more. He's going to be doing the next collaboration with Jed. My brother's doing. Well, he's going to probably continue doing all those ones now, because I'm looking at commissioning Patreon prints. No, not to do the peeling. No, not really at all. I would just do sort of the section that I'm working on, and then as you go through, you can just rub it off as you go. But too soon, and obviously you run a much larger risk of warping the paper, but there's not really a window at all. I've got blocks that I've been working on for weeks, and it still rubs away fine. Especially this stuff from Dave. It's got a lot of nice long fibres in it, so there is a face to the paper. There is a textured side and a smooth side. So I stick it down. I'll grab it quickly. So this is what I use. 3M repositionable spray mount. A can this size is maybe about £8 or something. But it lasts a long time. You really only need just a very light dusting over the copy paper, and I glue the copy paper and stick it to the Gampi. If you were to glue the Gampi and try and do that, it's gonna crease and be a lot harder to work with. So I always stick the copy paper to the tissue. But you can see, if I zoom in, you can see what a great job he's done on the image. He's captured the nice fine lines really well. He's done a great job. All this nice brush work in here, all these nice little fine lines in here of the petals and stuff. So yeah, expect to see a lot more tracings down the line done by Oliver. He also does. I'm going to plug him because he's my brother. He does these really cool craft homewares. Sells on Etsy. I'm not sure what the shipping worldwide situation's like. But yeah, you can see it's going to be a really nice little print. And this is the third Patreon print. There was 3 people that got the first print was sent out to them this week, and I think there's sort of 3 rounds of it now. I need to work out a system to keep on top of that. But this will be going out to the first set of backers April 5th. And also Oliver will be the one that produces the books that I'd previously spoken about. It's going to be a really nice little design. So if I turn it the right way around for you. It's going to be nice. There's a nice little pink gradation at the top here. There's a little pink gradation around the face, fading into a little grey one here. And then that's about it. It will fade off to nothing. Down here, this will all be nice fresh white paper, and then just a little bit of green on the leaves. It's sort of 3 or 4 colours, but it's yeah, it's a nice little design. It's a Hokusai image. I had originally said it was Hiroshige, so forgive me for that. It's going to be, so counting key block, we've got key block, pink gradation, green, grey, 4 total. I might end up doing 5 blocks because the grey darkens some of the green on the leaves, and then there's a grey gradation on the tail of the bird, so I'll carve that separately. It'll go somewhere down here on this block. But let's get to work. So I like to use, especially when you're first starting off, I use a little bit of camellia oil. And that just gives a little bit more transparency to the block. And especially on a key block where you're looking for a bit of harder wood, it adds a little bit of lubrication to the blade that allows it to move a little bit smoother. But the blade's sharpened anyway, so it's more so for being able to see. So, where do we start today? Let's start just in here. I've got my camera really far to one side. Where am I in this? And this should maybe take about a week or so to get done. This key lock. It's not. I'm quite fortunate in that while the lines are very fine and stuff, there's not a lot of clearing out work to do on a smaller print like this. Registration, on the other hand, coming to printing will be a lot more of a challenge with lines this thin. Keeping really good registration in those green blocks is key. Oh, and I have to ask, what did everyone think to the opening with a little bit of music and the new graphics? I thought I'd try and make myself look slightly more professional than I am. John, the tracings are done exactly the same way that you would have saw me tracing with a tablet on the computer and stuff. I don't know if my brother's still in here. Oh, there you go. I've got a good couple of days free of just pure carving now, so I should get a lot of work done on this block before I've got to start the next set of reprints for Jed. Hi Ben, how are you? Yes, Ben, indeed. Yeah, you just missed it. I did the whole opening was pasting down the image and stuff. But I suppose you can track back. It's only sort of 5 minutes or so. I just sort of walked through the process. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I thought I'd try and add a little bit of something to it. I don't want to turn the block too much, but I'm gonna have to. Where are we? Yeah. Where are we? I'm zoomed in a lot further on this block than usual. I've actually been looking at getting some additional cameras and stuff, getting a GoPro or a webcam or something like that I can set up to come from this side as a sort of hand cam view, and get some additional lighting and stuff. I want to get some LED shop lights to sit under this shelf here. I am, yes. Unfortunately, I am left-handed. Unfortunately, for a Japanese printmaker, left-handedness is not a desired quality. But cost me a little bit more in blades. But other than that, it's a little bit of a conundrum, the way in which I produce my blocks. I'm going to sort this camera out. I print with the registration marks set up for a right-handed person. So when you're printing and you're printing with your right hand, all your strokes with the Baron are pushing the paper towards that registration mark, which is a lot more beneficial. As a left-hander, you have a lot more strength pushing than you do sort of pulling in. So my strokes towards the registration mark are a lot weaker, whereas my stronger strokes are wanting to pull the paper away from the registration mark. So it's a bit tough, and you could ask, why would I do that? Sort of the idea is to not print my own blocks forever. I'd like to have an operation in which I'm employing people to do such things for me. Which is long term, but that is the goal. Oh, the little stickers. The stickers are just registration mark stickers purely because I always used them for whatever reason. I was very scared to use them, and it's just sort of very shamedly is just very lazy on my part that I continue to use them. I really should just carve my own registration marks, but I don't know. I bought hundreds and hundreds of those stickers, and that's just how I've worked. So any purists will look at my registration marks and frown. And also being left-handed, if you were to learn in a more traditional manner, there's specific ways in which you carve the lines and the strokes, especially in things like calligraphy. And from what I've read, there's certain ways in which you move around the block. Me being entirely self-taught, I don't have those teachings, so I just carve. I sort of watched videos and things like that, and just sort of cobbled together enough information that I felt like I could give it a go through watching Dave's streams and things like that. So I don't carve with any sort of taught technique. I probably have a lot of terrible habits and quite poor technique, but it hasn't stopped me up until this point. But my point is, being a right-hander is a lot more. There's a lot more advantages to being a right-hander in this field than there is to being a lefty like me. Mostly in the printing. If you ever watch Dave Bull's left-handed, and anyone that knows Dave and has seen his work knows how accomplished he is. So I can take a small amount of comfort in the fact that Dave's left-handed and he's managed to reach the standard that he has. I keep losing myself today, sorry. Sorry, George. Sorry, I missed you. I was on a big tangent there. Yeah, that's the plan. I really want to add a lot more. I'd like to be able to, because at the moment I'm sort of hamstrung to being able to work in this area here, and then I can stretch just about to the table behind me, but setting up to print in that corner off to my left is a lot harder. So having additional cameras and cameras that are able to move around the space and be positioned in other ways, maybe mounted up on the wall, or especially something like a GoPro that has a reasonable quality and can show wider angles, I feel like would greatly enhance the qualities of the stream. Yeah, you're right there, George. Left-handedness is not a thing that exists in Japan. Well, obviously it exists, but you know what I mean. Yeah, left-handedness is not. It's not easy to do such things. Is that the same in your field as well, George? Is it a lot harder to teach someone proper technique than being left-handed, or does that not matter? Is there certain patterns and movements that require right-handedness? Yes, you're right there, Ben. Yeah, Dave uses a right-handed one and carves underhanded. Let me just pull this little line out and then I'll demonstrate. Yeah, so when I'm carving in what is known as a traditional grip. So I'm carving overhand, so I'm looking down across my knuckles with the beveled side of the blade facing. Dave, on the other hand, carves with a right-handed tool, so the beveled side will be here, and he carves underhanded like this. So there's the two different grips, and if you're just starting out or whatever, I don't think it matters too much. There's a certain flexibility that you can get on curves that way, carving overhanded. But conversely, there's directions you can go carving underhanded. You're exactly right, Ben. It's like Jimi Hendrix with his upside down strung guitar. That's exactly what Dave does. Oh, okay. So, George, is there specific moves that are harder to teach someone being left-handed, or is there certain techniques that require right-handedness, or can it be taught either way? Picked a good hard piece of wood here. You never know until you start. You have some idea, but it's a piece of wood can look and sort of feel to the eye and the hand like a nice hard piece of wood, and then you start to carve and it's a sort of spongy, splintery mess. But now for the next couple of weeks, this is going to be what all the streams are going to be made up of. We're going to be working through this whole block set and working through the color blocks and stuff. And speaking of traditional carving and stuff, you wouldn't see a traditional carver moving and turning the block nearly as much as you're seeing me do so. A traditional carver would maybe turn the block a couple of times, 3 times maybe. They carve all one side of the line, then maybe turn the block around and carve all the other side of the line. That's sort of the pride of a traditional carver, is to be able to do such a thing. I'm just happy that I can sort of hack away at these blocks and they look semi-decent at the end. But conversely, I'm not on a time crunch so much as those guys were back in the day. That was like they had to work so fast because it was the only way that they could earn money, and they didn't get paid very much at all because it wasn't anywhere near like it is today in terms of its global appeal and people's view of it as an art form. It was just a job, so people didn't get paid great money for it. The prints themselves were rather cheap, so you had to work fast. The faster you could work, the more money you could earn. Yeah, from what I've read, it was just a case of as fast as you can go. I've heard and read stories of guys going in on their first day, just being given a stack of paper and saying, right, we'll pull these prints, look at the guy next to you and work out what you're doing, and then whatever you mess up by the end of the day is coming out your wages. So there was a lot of pressure to get good and get good fast, and then to be consistently fast in the work that you do. Printmaking my full-time job. Yes, yeah, printmaking is my full-time job. I'm very fortunate in the fact that I have been able to work continuously this entire time. We haven't production hasn't slowed down at all. In fact, we producing more prints now than we ever have done. Yeah, so I'm very fortunate in the fact that printmaking is the job I wake up to every morning. But speaking of speed, I've noticed when I'm on stream, I work a lot faster than I do when I'm not. I suppose it's because I'm a lot more focused. There's no other sort of distractions around me. There's nothing I've got to get up and do. I haven't got to get up and go and wash brushes or check on paper and size paper and things like that. It's just a solid hour a couple of times a week of just carving. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was just it was. I sort of like to say it's those guys, the printers and the carvers and the designers and stuff. It was no different than the guy at your local copy centre pressing print on the machine. That's what they were doing. They were printing presses, and they got paid equivalent to what a printing press gets paid. It wasn't until sort of the opening up and stuff of Japan that people started to sort of view them as higher art forms, more so. There was obviously poetry groups and higher classes of prints being made. Yeah, wasn't Hokusai quite a frequenter of the more seedy districts? Yeah, now you try and buy anything produced in and around that age, and it's thousands, but I suppose that's like any form of art. It seems worthless at the time and then increases in value later on. And with lines this thin, I'm not too concerned about getting them as fine as they are first time. A block with lines this fine will almost certainly need additional trimming and stuff. So the main point is to get the sort of the taste and the flow of the lines and stuff, get the shapes in, and then if any areas need need thinning out and maybe a little bit more shape put into a little round and stuff like that, then I'll do that once I pass over the block later on, similar to the hair block that you'd seen me carving previously. Yeah, I would probably hazard the guess that the reason why that is, George, that if you were to go into a lot of elderly Japanese people's attics and stuff, that you would see sort of boxes of old tarnished prints and things like that. I would assume it's probably a sort of a not a boring subject, but something a lot of Japanese people have grown up with, since it's one of the more recognisable forms of Japanese art. Do you mean, does Dave sell wood? Dave himself doesn't sell blocks for carving. There are places you can purchase them, McLean's in the US and Woodlight Matsumura in Japan. Me and my father are currently, and have been for the last few months, working on blocks that we would sell ourselves. It's now, we've sort of worked on two sets, two different types of wood, one was vastly superior to the other. So we're now at a point where I'm going to order another load, make a ton of blocks for use for myself, and if they all come out as good as the first lot, bye John, take care, I'll see you next time. Yeah, if they come out as good as the first batch that we produced, then we'll be ordering a load more and we'll be putting them up for sale on my website. Yeah, exactly. And then you had what was his name? The publisher Watanabe. He saw what a fortune there was to be made, and that's sort of what bore out the Shinhanga movement, wasn't it? He commissioned these guys. He had a load of craftsmen that were sort of sat around twiddling their thumbs a little bit. A lot of these old masters didn't have a ton of work, and there's a big influx of foreigners that were interested in Japanese prints, and Mr. Watanabe saw that opportunity and jumped on it, and they produced some of the more, well, some of the most accomplished prints ever produced, because they were able, again, they didn't have to pay these old guys a ton of money, but they could sell the prints for a lot more money. So you ended up with these sort of massively multi-block, multi-colour, in some cases moving up to the realms of like realism. But as a Westerner coming in and stuff, as a foreigner coming into Japan at that time, it must have been so exciting to see. Yeah, that's right, George. Thanks. It must have been so exciting to see these new prints and to learn about them. Yeah, so the wood that I'm carving on here, these blocks that I use for the outlines are Japanese mountain cherry, Yamazakura. The blocks that I've been using for colour blocks, I can't import any Japanese cherry. It's very hard to get hold of, and any good cherry inevitably ends up going to the printmakers in Japan. So I use the next best alternative, which is North American cherry. And for colour blocks, where you don't need the wood to be as hard as this is, it's worked perfectly. Almost all of my blocks this past 12 months have been, the colour blocks specifically have been carved on North American cherry, and I haven't had an issue with them at all as of yet. You could use a Magnolia Wood. It has been used. Sometimes you will see it listed in Japan as Ho, spelt H-O. It's a lot softer than cherry, so it's a lot more forgiving to someone that might be just starting out. I would, if someone was reluctant to purchase cherry because of the price and say you're a bit concerned about snapping blades and things like that, I would recommend the Magnolia blocks over using the printmaker's plywood, definitely. It will give you a lot more of an idea of what it's like to carve on wood this hard, and also using the hammer and chisels and stuff to clear out. You don't need to really do that so much with the ply, but yeah, if you want to carve crazy fine lines and you want to do stuff like this, then really cherry is optimal. Yeah, George, that's probably is exactly where we're getting it from. Yeah, there's a lot more chance of getting the plantation grown North American cherry in Europe. How it's sawn? Yeah, so I can't remember the exact name for it, but it's essentially the way that you would sand a floorboard. I think half sawn or something like that. That's going to annoy me now. Let me text my dad. He's a carpenter, so he'll know. He'll let me know. Where are we? This has been a really good stream. We've had loads of varied conversation and different talk. This is good. Let me try and draw it, Ben. So, here's my terrible drawing here. So, essentially, the grain is going like so. That's how you want it, I think. Is that right? I think so. Hopefully my dad will message me back and let me know. He'll be the one to solve this. Yeah, you're right there, Andre. I personally, I love a lot of the Sasaka Hanger artists. I love their. We used to go. We used to go to conventions and things in the before times, but that's all been sort of that's a big old stop's been put to that. So we just sell online. You can find all my prints. I sell some smaller reproduction versions on my website, which you can find through my Instagram, or also as a link through on the Instagram, you will find Jed Henry's website, and that's where all of my main prints go for sale. And he's based in the US. And I also run a Patreon, which is what this print is for, and the subscription to receive a print, the tier is $10 or £8.50 a month, and after 3 months of subscription you will then receive your first print, and each batch of prints is done in sort of a series of 4, so this is number 3 in the series. Yeah, it really was, and it's interesting to also know as well that people like Kiyoshi Saito, one of the most celebrated designers in the movement, actually ended up becoming so popular that he, even though sort of the spirit of Sasoku Hanga was to produce all the work yourself and things like that, he would he would send his prints, send his designs out to printers to print for him. And look, we're over the hour. We've run right the way through. Here we go. So that's quite a good bit done. I'm going to have another good full day on it tomorrow, so we should get most of these leaves done. The branches and stuff will take a little bit longer, so I'll just work through the leaves, and then we'll do excuse me, we'll do the branches on Thursday. We'll start working on that on Thursday. Oh, please do, Andre. I'll and I can post that up on the website as well. That's very kind, George. Thank you. I'm gonna have on the starting and ending points of the streams. I'm gonna have stuff saying like where to go for the Patreon and the website and stuff. I really need to start pushing people there, and it will be in the descriptions on the streams. But that's going to be it for today. I'll be back on Thursday evening, same time. Tomorrow, actually, I'm going to be setting up the long fabled Facebook group so that we can all join that and sort of post images, and I'll be able to post, rather than for the Patreons, rather than me spamming you with a Patreon post every couple of days to say that I'm live, it'll just be through Facebook then. So that'll be set up tomorrow, and I'll notify everyone of that. I'll notify everyone in the Patreon, and then I'll post the links to it and stuff on Instagram for you all to see. And we can start to all share our work with each other, share some ideas and techniques, and sort of have a big community blog thing going. But anyway, thank you again, everyone. Take care over the next few weeks and months. We're all hopefully getting through it. And stay safe, everyone. And I will see you Thursday. Goodbye.